Okay, let's go.
Hello there, Chick Chatters. We're back with another Love is Blind. This is episode 8 of their drops because they drop 3 at a time right now. So they want to start us off with all these apartments. They're going to get as many women as possible. We start off with Jimmy and Chelsea, and they're going to start looking at each other's apartments. She wonders if a dust bunny is going to have him call off the wedding. I'm like, girl, if you're this insecure.
She is that insecure. I think that was actually the perfect metaphor for her insecurities. What if just a dust bunny developed that I have no control over, and is that going to be the thing he leaves me? Like, it could be the way the wind blows for her.
Yeah. Could be anything at this point. I mean, he did it to Jessica over the same type of thing too. Jimmy's just very wishy-washy.
I keep wondering if she would be this way if she was with Trevor.
I don't think so. I think she'd feel more confident. She kind of reassures later in her conversation with Jimmy my thoughts on this whole thing. I think she kind of reassured a lot of my suspicions to me. But anyways, they go to Chelsea's house and it's all nice and everything. And then her roommate walks in, and I did not know that was her roommate. I thought that woman was like an aunt or a mother or something.
I thought it was her sister at first.
Yeah, I had no idea. She just walked in, was like, "Woo, let's do this. Let's do some drinking." And then Jimmy calls her the roommate, and I'm like, okay. But then it's also in the same sentence that the roommate is also married. So I'm like,
No. The roommate told her, I am going to be married because you are going to be married.
are you sure?
She said, I live vicariously through Chelsea, and so I'm going to be married too.
Okay.
I've watched it 3 times.
I guess no matter how the clock strikes, it struck for me. It still made no sense.
Well, that's why Jimmy was like, I can't live here.
Yeah, he was. He did not want to do that.
He wanted no part. And that was pretty much it.
That's all we got from Chelsea's, because then they go right over to Jimmy's. Like, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump away or something. But then we're all of a sudden at Jimmy's. I wasn't even told I was at Jimmy's, I don't think. We were just already at Jimmy's. And she's like, oh, I could live here. You said this place was small. It's not small. And he's like, oh, well, yeah, for 2 people. He does not want her there. He doesn't want her.
It's a studio apartment that has no rooms. It is small, Chelsea. You're
also
in delusional world.
But he don't want her there.
No, he doesn't want her there. And she's very much trying to fit there, but she's completely delusional to say that that place isn't small. It has high ceilings. It's nice. It's in a nice part of town, but it's small.
But why does
she literally cannot be around when he's working? And I get that. I have a job that I can't have nobody around when I'm working. I can't even have the scent of somebody around when I'm working, and I work from home, so that gets difficult sometimes. But you can't do that in a studio apartment. That's going to be a no. The whole, I'm going to go to a coffee shop or go for a walk, I'm going to be super fit, it's not going to work. She better be in flight in the sky when he's working, or they're going to have problems.
That's true. I think that might have also been why he was okay with this, because she is a flight attendant right now. She must not be working, and she's got a lot of time on her hands, so she's being a little extra needy, but not because she's actually there.
But I do think if they were both working, it wouldn't be so bad maybe to live in that studio, but they'd have to plan accordingly.
What I wanted to know is, why did nobody suggest getting a new place together? Our lease is about to be up. Just get a new place together when it suits you guys.
Yeah, I didn't get that either, why that's not an option for them. Maybe their finances just aren't in the same place as everybody else. Maybe they're just not ready for that. But honestly, whatever they're both paying in rent, I'm sure they can put together and get a place with a bedroom, at least.
Well, Clay, on the other hand, has a nice, big, spacious home. And he's got his vision board and everything up in his living room. Katie was loving that house. She went through everything. She was touching it all. She was a part of all of it.
She was so impressed. She could see herself in it. She was happy. She loved his clothes. She loved the fact that it looked like a man lives there and nobody else, because it really did not have a woman's touch at all. There was no decoration. Most things, even the side tables, looked like bar tables. He really lived like a man. So she was impressed with everything, the house and all of that. And he basically asked her to just jump right on in. He's like, I got the mortgage covered, so just come on in here. She's sitting there in her little confessional. I can make this work. I was like, girl, yes, you can make this work. Like, this is the whole house.
Yes,
It's
you
not like
can.
Jimmy's studio apartment. Like Chelsea's trying to make work. I
This
know.
is good. This is great. This is huge.
It's so funny.
Makes you wonder if
Oh,
she's embellishing about any other things she's been telling us all that are huge. Throwing that out there. I will say Clay's closet really is to die for, especially when it comes to men. That is some great color coordination, outfit
mhm,
coordination. That's
mhm.
beautiful.
The t-shirts.
Him and Dean are soul sisters. They're soul
Sister
sisters.
wives.
Sister wives.
Sister
That's
wives
beautiful.
closet. Laura and Jeremy are next for the home visits, and this is the one that I was most anticipating just because I do want to see, like, they get intimate with each other about being clean. It turns
Mhm.
them on. So I wanted to see what kind of clean are we talking here. And I was impressed with both of them, but I mean, mostly Jeremy. He really does have two robots that are running full time all the time. And she's checking everything too. Every crevice, every nook and cranny. She's in the
Mhm.
microwave, the oven, the refrigerator. She was like, "Why is everything pushed up?" And he's like, "Because I turn the labels in and I do that too." So I was starting to get the vibe how she gets turned on by the cleanliness. Like that was it for me. That one. I was like, even the refrigerator. Oh my gosh. I even just lost my train of thought again. So I mean, that's a thing. I gotta get organized.
Yeah, he has fancy silverware.
He
And
has
she was
gold
like, "What's up with
silverware.
his silverware?" And I was like, "Damn, compared to who is it? Izzy's plates, his paper plates, this guy's silverware. These bitches really be going through this kitchen."
The guys that they had last season were subpar. Every single one of them when it comes to being a whole person who can care for themselves, and it's obvious through the way that they live. The
Mhm.
guys last season, all their houses were I mean, most of the seasons. I think about Cole's house. Whose house was it that had the dirty ass toilet?
It was recent. Oh, was it Cole? I think it was Cole.
Anyways, but yeah,
Maybe.
I was impressed. She was impressed. I also noticed too in the beginning, right when they walked in, his mom left a card for them, and it was just this cute little well wishes card. I thought that that was a nice touch. I wonder though if his mom came in and cleaned, but I doubt it. I think he really is that clean.
No, he seems really that clean, and she was trying to look for problems, and she couldn't find any. She just told him that he was even giving serial killer because it was cleaner than she even thought.
It was so clean she was not pleased.
Yes.
He didn't know even existed.
She wanted to be not pleased by it not being clean, but then when it was clean, she didn't really know how to be pleased about it being clean.
Mhm.
So then she was not pleased about it being too clean for her pleasure.
Mhm.
So
And then we get his CPAP in the bedroom, and he
yeah.
becomes a skinny elephant.
Yeah, and she makes a damn Squidward joke.
Uh-huh.
Girl, chill. This guy might be insecure about this. You don't think guys are insecure about things? They are. Come on.
He probably is, but he played it off fine. He called himself an elephant trunk, and it's actually for CPAP, I've seen a couple of them. That's not bad. It just goes over his like little snoot. He
Mhm.
can still receive a kiss. We move on to Brittany and Ken.
Mhm.
Ken's house is staged, right?
No, she
Ken's
thought,
house is staged.
Jeremy's house was staged
She
because
thought Jeremy's house was staged because it looked so nice, but Ken's house, I think, is legitimately staged. I believe that they brought in some pantry items, some living room items, and they staged an apartment. I think Ken did not want to be a part of showing his house. I would almost bet my firstborn child on the fact that this was not his real apartment. I
no,
think that
maybe.
those were some of his things. The refrigerator was brand new. I get not having a bunch of stuff in there because you're going to be leaving and you live alone and whatever. It was very clean. It looked brand new. The pantry had nothing like you have a pantry for a little bit, you have like a couple crumbs or something. Like this was somebody scooped up some items in maybe his pantry from his house while they grabbed all his living room furniture and they
Mhm.
staged it all in a different place. I would bet my child on it. Like, never been so sure. And I thought all of this before I even saw them open the cabinet to his spice rack. And then he was totally sarcastic about it. "Oh, yeah, this is my spice rack." And I'm not even being weird. There's not a single human in the world who owns only 2 spices, not one
No,
of them
yeah.
being salt and pepper, and neither one of them open
Yeah.
in an empty drawer with a cabinet with nothing else inside of it. Not another, nothing.
And I think one of them was Italian seasoning, the other one was like oregano or something. I'm like, "What are you using just oregano for?
No
You don't
seasoned
strong."
salt, no steak seasoning, no chicken seasoning, all this stuff that he wants to cook over at the other place. What do you season with at your house? You don't
Oregano?
just use these 2 things if they're full to the top brim. I actually lost my mind at that point. I was like, "What is going on here?"
He's really elusive
I
and he
wonder if they maybe had decided for what their future was before this happened, and they just needed to get this. I
you
don't
know.
know. It was weird because we didn't see Britney's place either, I don't think yet. Or maybe
No,
we
we
never
didn't.
will.
I don't think we did. So there's no food and only some snacks. She started questioning herself if she's overanalyzing everything. And then he's just kind of on his phone, going in and out of responding to her. She's saying a lot of words and trying to say that she thinks he's kind of like blah,
Mhm.
like he's just not doing anything. He says, "Well, don't I get time to be bleh?" Not everyone is on all day. Some days we're bleh. That's what I got out of it.
I mean, that's what he was trying to say. He was asking for grace, and I could maybe give some grace in that maybe it was a crash landing for him back to reality, and he needs, a little minute, but your grace is running thin. I think that that's actually what she was trying to say to him.
Mhm.
It's been a couple of days since being in the Dominican Republic. I think she was trying to figure out what was going on, and he just wasn't giving her anything to work with. No, nothing's wrong. No, nothing's good. Just kind of sitting on the phone. And she had a side confessional, and she's trying to say that she's just reading into his body language, and she wasn't able to see that very much before. So she's just getting used to that. I think she's trying to make some excuses for him, but we'll see. I mean, he's still on the phone all the time. And
Mhm.
then he tells her, "Well, I'm ecstatic, but how do you feel?" It's like, nothing about you says ecstatic. You're not
Reminds
even
me.
showing off your real apartment. I know you're not.
So then he just kinda gives her a kiss and a smile and then picks up his phone again. So that's the last we see of them for a while. Then they
Mhm.
go to Chelsea, who's meeting up with her friends, and
She does
Jimmy is
a T-Rex run again.
letting her friends in, and Jimmy's upstairs working, and they're outside. It sounds like she can't even really breathe when she's like moving around and stuff. Like she's just like, "Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm engaged. It's crazy."
She's very dramatic. She just requires a lot. I could see some people being exhausted by her. Not everybody, but some people.
Right.
Me.
And then she says that everyone wanted Jimmy. So this
Yeah.
confirms my suspicion that a lot of Chelsea's attraction to Jimmy was that other people wanted him too. And I don't think everyone wanted Jimmy. I just think that some people thought he had a nice voice. But
Mhm.
most people, when they saw Jimmy afterwards, were like, "Oh, wow, he does not look like I thought he was going to."
Mhm.
So they were all expecting something that he necessarily wasn't either. So she's not the only one who'd be catfishing
Yeah.
everybody.
Chelsea even said that. They asked, "Was Jimmy what you were expecting to look like?" And she's like, "No, not at all." And she talks about Trevor for a little bit too, and she says that she guessed correctly that Trevor had a mullet, and they all
Mhm.
had a good laugh about that. I feel like that would have been such a funny reveal.
She talks to them about Jimmy not being affectionate with her and he's being on the phone a lot. And she also says that Jimmy has seen a photo of Jessica and she is stunning. So she does not know what to think and she's wondering if this is messing with Jimmy's mind. I was like,
I bet it is, girlfriend.
wasn't expecting this. Our friends are a little bit like, "Oh, okay, we were just here for some tea and crumpets, but I guess we're gonna get some
Jimmy gets
extra
a
tea."
hot tea, an extra crumpet. The fact that she was like, "He hasn't kissed me all day." I get maybe talking to your friends about that on a regular basis, but before they even really meet him and look at him face to face, you're kinda
Ever.
setting them up to be, maybe not like him very much. It does end up going over. They end up going inside pretty much after this, and Jimmy does come down. He gives the first friend a really awkward hug while she's sitting down. It was like, every time I watch it, I close my eyes. I can't even exist in that moment.
Well, it just gets more awkward because I don't remember if it was Chelsea that was kind of poking at him, but they started asking him about Jessica, and Jimmy just comes out and starts talking about her. and he says that she
Mhm.
was the only one that he was talking to, and then it ended badly. So then he went with Chelsea because she made him feel better about
I
it.
thought that that was some hot tea, actually.
I was like, okay, so you were really just down for Jessica, but then when you found out she had already had a child.
And then the bad date that him and Jessica had immediately before that, when she gave the husband letter, he came in the date with Chelsea right after that, and he was sad about that, and she picked him back up. But it's the same thing. Like, I get his point of, I could be really, really low and she can make me feel good, but the situation is questionable.
Of course, and then Chelsea's over here, "I thought he was gonna break up with me," and it's like, "You thought
Mhm,
he was gonna break up with you, so him telling you that he loved you just changed the whole game and took
mhm.
out a whole other man, and you went with a whole engagement just because you thought he was gonna dump you and you were, like, fine with it before? Like,
I
what?"
know.
So,
It
I don't
was.
know, lost me. I was like, "What is wrong with these people?" So, Amy and Johnny go to Amy's place, and she had her crystal harvest in the kitchen, and she shows Johnny a picture of her grandfather. Those things sound random coming from me, just out of the blue, but this is really what the scene was.
It is true. I mean, I don't think they've had any issues between each other yet. Johnny says he's never dated a crystal girl, so he said it's a red flag for him, but he's willing to see.
But normally we do get soft launches of deaths in the pods and things like that, so this way we know what to expect, but we did not get a soft launch of this. We just got a full shrine.
It's true.
So I didn't
Very
know.
true.
So I felt bad. What's going on? Like, why is there a picture like that right there? And then she slowly explained it, and I was like, "Why do you guys keep doing this?" Like,
It's a picture of them taking out the trash, and she's like, "I like to think of it as my grandpa helping me take the trash out of my life." I'm like,
I think that was good. I did like that. Then they start talking about living in the moment and going on trips versus spending money, and how Jimmy wants to retire early and he wants to be more frugal. And she's just like, "Well, I want to go on more trips, and I think I'm here so you can be a little less." We
you
balance each other out.
I don't blame her. Of course, it's smart and good to want all the things that he wants. And I'm very frugal with my money. I want all of those things too. But I also don't think it's a realistic expectation, and especially a realistic expectation to put of your partner of a week, maybe 2 weeks, to just fully buy into right away, because he wants a lot of things. He wants to be financially stable before he has his first child. He wants to buy a house within the next year. So you got to save up money to buy a house, down payment, then you got to buy the house, then you got to make sure, your finances are figured out. Then the year after you buy your house, your mortgage always goes up because of the taxes. Nobody tells you that. So then you got to stabilize that part of it. So it's going to be at least 3 years before he feels stable enough to even think about having kids. But, anyways, he wants to buy a house in the next year. He wants to be financially stable before he has kids. He wants to be frugal, but also go on trips and have fun. And he wants to retire early. And I think that that's a lot of expectations to smash into the years of 25 to 50. I don't think you can do all that in the years, and you know what? That's okay. You can probably do
A
2
lot.
or 3 of those things. You can
Yeah.
do some of it. To expect to be able to do all of that is really, truly a lot, unless he plans to be working, like, all of the time.
Mhm.
And especially to ask someone who's, just living their life 2 weeks ago to all of a sudden adapt to this.
Way of living.
Yeah, it's a lot. Again, I'm not mad at him for it. I think all of that's great. Those are great goals to aspire to, but I hope that he's not very rigid in this, like, how this needs to happen. And she's starting to try to figure out how much give is there. She's talking about, well, I do want to go on trips and I do want to do things. And they talked in the pods about going on trips and living life together and experiencing things before they have kids. I think she's trying to make sure that all of that is still legit. And kind of in the same wave, they start to talk about the birth control situation and the kids stuff again. And I think, again, she's trying to push back and see where is the flexibility for this guy. Because she
Mhm.
said, if we get a house a year from now and we have a kid before we really want to, but we are still capable, we have a roof over their head and can take care of them. And he basically cuts her off and he's like, no, see, that's what I told you in the pods that I can't have, don't want, won't have. Like, he's very adamant. He's pretty rigid in all of this. And I hope that she's starting to think about this a little bit because he's very free and easygoing, but he has these demands of himself in his life.
Yeah, he's definitely not trying to have an unplanned pregnancy. And I know that it's not a good look to be a man trying to talk a woman into birth controlling herself, but I do think it's weird that her doctor did say it's probably good for her, but she refuses to do it. Instead, she wants to go a harder route and get like insulin or something every day.
Yeah, she said that
Girl.
she's, like, anemic, she's gotta get injections, and her doctor said it would be beneficial. I was like, "Then do it. You're gonna kill 2 birds with 1 stone, you're gonna be able to be, intimate with your partner. Call your doctor tomorrow and get it started because that stuff takes at least I think they say a week, but to be really safe, a month."
You can stop taking it. I know that sometimes people have negative effects on it, and that's what she's scared of. But at the same time, I feel like being anemic has some like negative effects. So
Yeah, what if you can't get your injection or, like, whatever, this is a pill that you're set you can get 6 months in advance.
yeah,
Go 6 months vacation. You don't need to get any injections. I definitely want her to make her own medical decisions, but it sounds like she might not be making the most informed personal decisions. So maybe Johnny can help
Mhm.
her with that a little bit. They do bring up or she brings up the idea of him having a vasectomy as a birth control option. I've just never heard of that before. I know that it's reversible, but I think they tell you to go in with the idea that it's permanent. And I think some doctors ask you if you've had children before, and I think some of them don't even really wanna give them out if guys haven't had kids before because they might wanna get it reversed. I don't think it's something that you get with the intent to reverse it, but,
No,
maybe
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I've been watching a lot of those court, who's the daddy paternity cases or whatever,
Oh, yeah.
and I guess that there was one where the guy got a vasectomy, and he said that he's had a vasectomy for, like, 20 years now or whatever, and he hasn't had a kid, so it shoulda took, and his wife ended up with a baby, so he didn't think it was his, and there was, like, a 1% chance or something that it was his, but it was
Mhm.
his, and
Mhm.
he when they did the paternity test, and I guess it's because a lot of times men don't go to their follow-up appointments
Mm,
to make sure that the vasectomy completely took
mhm.
because it can also not take. So you still gotta get checked, and it's not just like, oh, he gets a snip and then you can go to town and do whatever. He still gotta go in and make sure that like, he's doesn't got a couple extra swimmers coming up on there.
That's true.
So they had to make sure
Yeah.
it took. And if it took, then yeah, you're not supposed to go in with the intent of, oh, well, we'll just reverse it. It's not really birth control, just like plan B isn't exactly birth control. I don't know.
Plan B is literally made for
Controlling the birth.
controlling a specific birth.
So
Yeah.
yes, I understand plan B more because at least it's just a pill. It's not a full surgery. Now, if he was older and they already had kids or whatever, I feel like it'd be a totally different
That's what
thing.
I mean about I don't consider it birth control. I just consider that, like, ending
It
your
felt like she was.
birthing phase.
It felt like she definitely was.
She was using it as birth control, as in, "I wanna control when I have a birth control," and I'm pretty sure most people are supposed to use a vasectomy as, like, "I'm ending the birthing, baby-making phase of my life with this surgery."
Mhm.
I know it's not an intensive surgery, it's outpatient and easy, but I don't think it's guaranteed reversible. So, I
Yep.
don't think that's a good idea, but they do both agree at least that they need to do some more research on both ends about the whole birth control topic. They both also agree that they wanna figure that out before they get married because I'm sure that they want to do what adults do before they get married. They're not against doing that, they just
Mhm.
haven't because I think Johnny's terrified. I also wonder, like, do you have a past pregnancy scare or something? Like, why is he so traumatized? She talks about how just using regular protection, like condoms or something, isn't really enough for him.
It's
So
probably he might have, and he's also never had to deal with birth. He's always just known they've been on birth control before, so now he's just really freaked out. I don't know
he
what
mi
his
you're
deal is.
right, it might just be a whole new territory for him. He probably thinks women that aren't on birth control could get pregnant by
Like
looking at them.
nothing.
If you guys
Oh,
watched our last episode, I have a little anger about the music going on, and the music at the end of this one told us This is not the end. So, just in case you guys were wondering, Amy and Johnny are gonna be okay.
Just
Yeah.
in case you needed to know, the music told you. Yep.
Yeah.
So from a birth to a death, we
Yeah.
go to Brittany and Kenneth, and they are talking in the kitchen. They're trying to have some word salad conversation about him coming home late, and it goes from that to her cravings and a lack of all types of things. It was a mess. It was so much word salad, and this was a battle. He was slaying the hell out of her with his words. Like, it was crazy. He had something to say for everything. It's like he rehearsed
He
it.
knew this was coming. He had it planned. I know for a plethora of reasons. Maybe you couldn't understand them because he was shoving food in his mouth the entire time and covering his face up with his mouth full. I'm pretty
Honestly.
sure we all knew that she was trying to have maybe not the most serious conversation like they ended up having, but a conversation. Put your damn fork down for 30 seconds, sir. I don't care how hungry you are. Just wait a minute. Or at least
Yeah.
don't shovel it in. Like, take a breath. Like,
Right, poor Brittany's sitting here trying to get a word out about how he's not showing her much desire and that he's craving her. He's taking it like, well, you don't
mhm,
feel that way. And since
mhm.
you don't feel that way, there's nothing I can do. He starts like principling her ass. He turns it all around on her. And I'm like, what?
He does. He totally pushes all of it back on her. He basically says, "Speak for yourself," and that's all her, that's not him. I was not buying that whatsoever. He
He
tried to
was.
give this whole lecture to her too. I know how you said principal, I definitely agree about how when she's in business mode, I'm guessing what he means by that is getting the house together and stuff like that, because that's all we've really seen her do. But he's like, "Yeah, when you're in this business mode, you're not really telling me you want intimacy. And when I give you a kiss, you just give me one kiss." It's like, okay, but y'all are kissing. If she's told you multiple times, grab me, touch me. I want to be like, what does she need to do? Draw you a map as to how exactly to do it? Just because she's white and this is your first white, like, kissing still works the same.
It all works the same.
It
All of
all
it.
works the same way. And I'm not saying that that's why he feels that way. There could be a plethora of reasons why
Mhm.
he's not feeling it. But I can't understand why he's acting like it's on her to make sure that she's completely open all the time to whatever he accepts, especially at damn 1 o'clock in the morning. And notice how I said 1 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock AM, but not 1 o'clock AM in the morning, Brittany. Who does that?
1 o'clock in the AM morning.
She has this way of talking, like saying people identify as their own race and saying AM in the morning. I just I can't. And I like her, but she needs some help.
Very descriptive. She starts crying that she doesn't have consistency in their affection. He's not kissing her, he doesn't really touch her, and about not feeling a crave for him because now the crave is on her and she's fully accepted the crave. Kenneth then decides to go into this whole spiel about how he seems to be her caliber man, but she just doesn't feel X, Y, and Z for him. And he says that he's really prepared for anything. God has
Mhm,
prepared them both for anything. So if it's not
mhm.
each other, it's fine. He could not have found a single
To get
to
he
give.
couldn't he couldn't find any of them.
It was wild. This turned into a breakup conversation
Mhm.
over her just saying that she wants to. It's true, I crave you. She just wanted to crave him.
She did. Yeah, and I mean, it was sad, but he is right. I think they could have tried a little bit harder and
He was right, but he didn't do a thing. He
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 didn't do a
gave
thing about it, but say, "All right, I guess that's it. That's not enough to get married. You guys aren't getting married for 21 more days. You both agree you're strong-willed individuals. You both agree that you want this. You both agree on all kinds of things in life. Just maybe try to have that." That's what tells me he just doesn't want it. Maybe he made his mind up at least yesterday because he knew where this conversation was going. He basically damn near planned it. It was just Brittany had the courage to bring it up and start saying it.
This is why I'm starting to think maybe he was an understudy. He was just an understudy, and all of a sudden he got engaged. Like, he was just kind of filler person in case, because honestly, it just blows my mind how chill he was about the whole thing. And I guess that's great. You want to be civil and all that, but he gave absolutely nothing.
No, this was the only time that peace came back over him since he's been in the DR. He was like, God's prepared me for whatever is here, and that's it. It's not enough to get married, so give me a hug so that there's no beef,
So wild.
and see you later. He asks her if she's okay, and then she says yes while she's crying, and he just gets back to his phone and then
Mhm.
walks himself upstairs and calls somebody, and he's like, "Okay, I did it. I'm coming over." I know he knew that he was getting broken up with or breaking up with her, but the way that he kept pushing it back on her and acting like this was all her, this was not her. She tried, she gave, she did. She's beautiful, she was
Mhm.
happy. I mean, I don't know what more he could have really wanted from her.
That reminds me of Chelsea's argument with Jimmy where she was like, "I gave," and
Oh,
he's like, "I know you gave,"
yeah.
and she's like, "No." Someone
Yeah.
else said that though.
Chelsea's about to say this with Jimmy, but the original "I Have Given" was, from Love Is Blind. It was last season with I
Stacy, who
Stacey
while he
said
was
it
crying.
to Izzy, and then he went and cried in the closet. She used the
I
original
have
"I Have Given,"
him.
but Chelsea's about to "I Have Given" Jimmy, so we could walk into that.
We get Chelsea and Jimmy who are talking about the visit with the friends, and it starts off all fine and dandy. Chelsea decides to say she's been worried about him because he isn't affectionate, and he said he tried to pay for dinner, and that's why he's affectionate. I'm like, where are you going with this, Jimmy? I was like, okay, maybe homegirl's got a point. Like, I thought maybe she's got a lot of time on her hands. She's not working as much. Flight attendants usually work a lot. You might be sitting there in her insecurities and her feelings a lot, overthinking. She's on TV. She
Mhm.
saw her competition. It don't take much for me to put like 4 and 15 together and realize there's a lot of things going on there. So Chelsea then brings up Jessica and him seeing her photo, and he tells her how it got brought up was because of Jeremy showing her Instagram to him. I'm like, oof, you just want to tell the whole story. He's like, I just figured you should know how it happened.
I think it's actually important tea for later because Jeremy is a little snickety snack.
Schnickety schnack. So Jimmy can't take it anymore because Chelsea's sitting there arguing for a while. She seems very upset, very insecure. She's really kind of a lot sometimes. I get that she has these insecurities, and I just don't think she would have them had she not done herself a disservice by one, kind of exaggerating her looks a little bit, comparing herself to another girl, and then going after a guy out of rivalry and not out of your own intentions, because otherwise you would have ended up with Trevor and it would have been all fine. But you
Yeah,
wanted to beat out the whatever
pretty girl.
Jessica is, the pretty girl, the cheerleader, the whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know. Although I think Chelsea is quite pretty.
she is.
It's just because of Jessica's
Chelsea is
aesthetic.
insecure, so she looks at Jessica as more pretty than her. She didn't say that, but that's what everybody is saying, because, and it's not because Jessica is prettier than her. It's because Chelsea tells everybody that Jessica's prettier than her. It's really this crazy perception that Chelsea lives in. But Chelsea is like laying it on extra in this conversation, and she's not really taking "I'm sorry" for an answer. Jimmy's being really agreeable in this conversation. I'm actually starting to like Jimmy a little bit more. I don't know if like is the word, but I respect him a lot more. I mean, he's really hanging in there and trying. I
Yes.
will give him all the props in the world for that, because she started this conversation with the whole "you didn't kiss me all day," and he walks right over and gives her kisses and says, "I'm sorry about that." And then he remembers and he's like, "No, I did kiss you." He reminds her, and then she's like, "Oh, well, it's not just that you don't kiss me. Ever since you saw Jessica's picture, you've been acting weird." And then they talk that through a little bit.
Mhm.
And then he says he reassures her that he loves her and he chose her and he's happy with his choice and he's not thinking about Jessica. And then she's like, "Oh, well, you don't tell me you love me passionately enough." And I'm like, "Girl, get a grip." He is giving all the fucking reassurance in the world that he can, and you just want to fight. I think at that moment she chose violence. She was mad about whatever happened. She didn't want his
She's
answers.
just letting her insecurity run rampant, to be honest. That's really
Crazy.
all it is.
And I
Like,
don't blame him in that moment, even though I don't think it was right. He ended up calling her clingy, but I'm sure he felt suffocated. She was just laying it on, and "I'm sorry, let me fix it." And here's another problem. I'm sorry. All the way down to the way that you tell me you love me. It's just, it was a lot.
And I got a hot take because it's like if you're gonna list a bunch of things going on with somebody that you're gonna call out and they say one thing about you, you gotta be able to take that. You can just be like, you called me clingy. It's like how disrespectful. And it's like you're sitting here disrespecting him too. What do you mean? If you got a list, they got a list, you just tell each other your lists and you go through your lists.
I,
You
I
know?
think he could have chosen a better word, but I don't blame him. He was probably so exhausted at that point because she's a little bit exhausting that he wasn't coming up with his best words. He's not the best word comer upper with her, as we saw
No.
with Jessica. He says what he said. She's pissed. She gives the whole I have given speech. Now she's really throwing it all out there, like completely turns herself into a victim. I've cooked, I've cleaned, I've washed your show, I had sex with you. You never say you love me. You haven't kissed me all day. Things that we know not to be true. Like she is just
Mhm.
completely living in her own world now. No wonder she's freaking out. I mean, that sounds like an awful world, but that is just not her reality whatsoever.
And Jimmy comes out there and is like, well, maybe I wanted a breather on the sex
On the
parts too.
sex
I was
thing.
like,
And I think he did because of his lip.
he's like, I cut my lip on the chip. I am so torn up. I can't kiss you. It is hard for me to even talk right now.
Honestly, I really do believe him. I think he was out here just trying his best these last couple days, and she was like, "Nope, it's not enough for me." He even asks, "Well, did you feel like this way yesterday?" And she's like, "Yep, this way yesterday too." And he's like, "Oh." At that point,
Yeah, they too.
they basically give up on the whole conversation. I think he
Mhm.
still tries to reassure her that he loves her, and she's like, "Maybe I should just go stay at my place for the night." They get up, they walk away, and the music tells us that we're up in smoke and having a crash and burn. So I don't know where this is going, but Jimmy packs up his bag, and I think he's gonna be out for the night.
We don't ever find out where he goes, at least not this episode, because then we go over to Laura meeting up with Jessica at a bar, and I was like, "Oh, okay." They're wearing the same damn outfits like Kylie Jenner and her best friend of the
I
week
know.
style
I
because
feel like they
it's like
planned it.
different colors but the same outfit, but I don't it was weird. They
Mhm.
had to have planned it. She meets up with Laura in the matching outfits and they go to the bar and she informs her about Autumn and how things are now. That Autumn asked if they're getting married, all the updates, how Jess had to tell her no, and how she's still a little bit hung up on Jimmy. And she gives a lot of
A
tea
lot,
to us.
a
I
lot
mean,
hung up on Jimmy.
honestly, if you really just want to watch the last 10 minutes of this episode, you'll get all the tea you ever need on the whole episode because wow. Yeah, she says that he sent her a friend request a day or two after they got back from the honeymoon thing. I want to call it the honeymoon, but I guess it's more like a vacation.
Right.
And then he withdrew it 8 hours later and went private, probably because he didn't respond. He was a little butthurt, but
I almost wondered because I know now that there was an interaction with Jimmy and Jeremy, and that's how Jimmy saw Jessica's picture. I wonder if he friend requested her right there in front of Jeremy just to
uh-huh.
like
No.
be a dude.
So my theory is that last cast party was when they had that conversation or whatever. Because then the couples are together when they fly back. So I really think that he showed him then, and then it sat in his mind for like 2 days, and then he decided to add her when he got home.
Maybe.
And then he changed his mind because he's like, "Man, I don't need Chelsea working around here. Like, you're making me uncomfy,
Oh, not uncomfy.
not uncomfy."
Not
So
Chelsea feeling uncomfy.
Jessica decides to give us all the tea and lets us know that she is kind of into Jimmy still. Even if he was butt ugly, she would just turn off the lights and just like let him talk to her. And I was like, whoa, girl. So it seems like she's going to be making a beeline for Jimothy and she is going to give it her all. She's not done. She's not out the
She's
ringer.
not. She's in that little confessional. I've never heard somebody more committed to a man that's not hers in my life. She was just ready. She wants that man. And so then Laura tries to bring up her own tea for a second. She says that Jeremy brought her a screenshot or his messages or whatever. She took a screenshot of it. Sarah trying to reach out on Instagram to him saying a bunch of cute stuff at first and then asking if there's ever a chance that your mind is changing from the choice that you made, I would love to meet you. And I guess he hearted it, double tapped it, so it hearted it. But he did show Laura, so Laura's trying to talk to Jessica about it, and they probably talk about it for all of 30 seconds before Jessica says, "We're still Team Jimmy." And I think she meant Jeremy, but
Yeah,
she
she did.
has Jimmy on her mind like crazy. And then she just takes that opportunity to steal the conversation back, talk more about Jimmy, and she asks Laura if she thinks Jimmy would want to see her. And Laura says, yeah. And she says, oh.
Yeah, and she decides to take that moment too to flex and say, well, Chelsea's a really pretty girl. It's just that I've looked at Jimmy's everything online and
Mhm.
all of his exes look like me.
Mhm.
Really, Jimmy? Like this Jimmy? What is this?
I
Are
know.
y'all sure? I mean, not like he's a bad catch or anything. It's just like, are y'all sure?
I know. Okay.
I guess that's Jessica's reality. So, but
Jessica has her own reality, and so does Chelsea. And I
they're
don't know.
different though.
I know. That's why I worry for Jimmy a little bit.
Yeah, and honestly, Jessica, that's very odd behavior to just go and research this man's whole dating history to see what his exes look like. I do not even know what almost any of Dean's exes really truly look like.
I think I know what all Tyler's exes look like, but
Well, they're
it's not
smaller
like I
children,
went
too.
seeking them out. I just know.
But you wouldn't have known all of them on day one. Having your phone back or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Jessica says, and this is what infuriates me. This once she says this, I got really annoyed. But Jessica says that she doesn't know if the opportunity will present itself to talk to Jimmy in person, but she has questions. Girl, you're on season 6. You think
Yeah.
that they're not gonna put you guys in person together?
I just want to know what questions do you have at this point? Because you led that conversation that end in the pod. If you had questions, you should have asked her questions then. What do you have questions about between then and now? Other than why did you friend request me? But I'm sure more people were friend requesting each other than just those two.
As someone who asks a lot of questions, but as somebody who usually talks more than the other person in a conversation, we're usually left with more questions because we're like, oh shit, I don't know what they think. I made all the decisions and now I'm left with questions.
Right. Well, I
There
mean,
could be a little bit of that, but
he made the final decision, really.
I think her main question is, did you choke?
Are you choking? That's the question. Are you currently choking? Do you need an EpiPen?
To be honest,
Is
I'm really
in the
upset.
words of Sarah, is your mind shifting in your choice?
Netflix, it was a missed opportunity because I am super upset that it was made a point for her to tell him when he sees her for the first time, he will need an EpiPen, he will choke, all of these things. Missed opportunity. If Jeremy was with him showing him, we should have seen his reaction to seeing Jessica.
True.
I want to see it. I want to see it. Why am
I
I
mean, we'll
missing all
see
the
when
good
they
parts?
see each other in person, I'm sure, but you're right. I would have liked to have seen his face.
That's all I'm asking. I mean, it's a freaking reality show. Like, show me a little bit of reality. Anyways,
Yeah.
so then Jessica gets this cute little interview outside with the producers. She just kind of goes all in at that moment. She said that if you put them in the same place in person, that it's just going to be tempting for Jimmy. And don't even look at her wrong because she's right. We all know she's right. Like, girl, you got some biggity balls because I know she had to be a little bit drunk too, but I was like,
She
Jessica.
can't have been that drunk. It's not like they were there for 3 hours. Like,
Jessica and Messica, I swear. She
she
might have
is a
just had a
mess.
few shots and she just went all out. She
Mhm.
is setting up this whole storyline now of I'm coming for you, Jimmy. I don't care
Mhm.
what you look like. It don't even matter. I look like
Mhm.
this, a Kardashian, if you will, is what they used
He's
to call
still the
her.
number one draft pick for her. Ain't nothing changed.
Wow.
We'll
Yep,
see
that's
how it goes, chick chatters.
end of episode 8. It's concluded. Goodbye.
Goodbye.